Mr. O'Flynn, please.
Thank you. Members are living in cloud cuckoo land if they do not think Brexit is going to reduce the level of funding for cross-EU cultural projects. In case you didn't know, the UK is one of the highest net contributors, so even given the ceasing of spending under EU programmes in Britain, it's still going to leave the EU with a long-term black hole of around €10 billion a year, and cultural programmes must clearly accept their share of the savings. To use an old-fashioned phrase, you must cut your coat according to your cloth. And sometimes creativity can emerge from efficiency and new and better ways can be found to do things. Otherwise, the only option is to further increase membership subscriptions for the remaining countries, which will be unpopular with national governments and lower the esteem of national electorates too. Just quickly, the report notes an increase in xenophobia, racism and violent extremism within the EU, yet fails to specify by far the majority of violent extremism is committed by Islamists, many of whom have migrated into the EU in recent decades. It does acknowledge challenges posed by the attempted integration of migrants and refugees from other countries and cultures, but surely the onus should be on newcomers who have chosen to live in European countries to take on and abide by the pre-existing core cultural values of those societies, whether it's a belief in gender equality, minority rights, freedom of expression, democratic politics, or equality before the law. The people of Europe have not suddenly turned nasty, and rising resentment against outsiders is at least in part related to the behaviour of some of those newcomers. So EU cultural spending should not be focused on reprogramming European citizens to think so-called acceptable thoughts. It's the politicians, I suggest, who need to get back in touch with the lives of the citizens instead. Thank you.
Julie, 1 minute perhaps.
Well, I'm a proud British European, and I'm ashamed to be in the room with people who would speak so poorly about the project, the European project, which is a project about working together for peace and harmony. I come from not a political background, but a grassroots background, working on the ground with the most deprived communities in the most peripheral areas and the most poorest urban communities in the north of England. And I know that the EU and the creative and cultural programmes that were offered to young people, not just British young people, but the way that it brought young people together has been a very powerful experience and enabled young people to grow in confidence because when they encounter the other, they learn more about themselves. Now, Brexit is an unmitigated disaster. The wheels are falling off the Tory Brexit wagon, as we could see from the Tory party conference recently, and the whole world watched. Now, David Davis can't even be bothered to turn up this week for the negotiations, and Theresa May has described it as some kind of game with a ball. The British brand is damaged, and the advertising industry told me this 2 weeks ago. So we are in great trouble, British colleagues. And I have to say that it's not my generation or you that will pay the price. It is young people who will pay the price. And I'm so ashamed that Patrick O'Flynn could stand here, be here in this committee with his Islamophobic, xenophobic comments. I have today a young Muslim woman coming from my constituency in Burnley because she is a leader. And she is coming this week because this is Girls' Week, it's Girl to Leader Week, and she is here in this Parliament. And I would challenge you to meet her and say those things. It is shameful that you would speak like this in this House.